PowerBoat Television is brought to you by Yamaha. Conquer water with Yamaha. Ford F-Series. Smart, tough, capable. And BoatBuys.com. Over 60,000 new and used boats for sale. Welcome back to the Rideau Canal National Historic Site. We're exploring a section of it on a LeBoat Horizon 4, one of more than a dozen boats the European-based rental company has here at its first non-European destination in half a century. 2019 marks LeBoat's 50th anniversary, and that's a long time for sure. But it's just a baby compared to the Rideau Canal itself, which dates back to the early 1800s.
We run 202 kilometers between Kingston, the old capital of Canada, and Ottawa, our present capital of Canada, which is a wonderful thing. And along the way, you can see a series of lakes, so it's a very sort of natural history and inheritance, and a series of small towns.
One of those small towns is Smiths Falls. It's home to the headquarters of both the Rideau Canal and LeBoat. In fact, LeBoat has set up shop in the old Lockmaster's house at Lock 29, open the Friday of the Victoria Day long weekend, and closing at end of day on Thanksgiving Monday. The Rideau Canal is full of history you can see and experience firsthand at the locks.
These are the originals. Everything that you see on the canal, the crabs, the way that it's done in terms of cranked by hands, the way people are locked through, is exactly the same way that it was accomplished in 1832. So this is as preserved as it can be, save for 3 lock stations, which are mechanized. They are all operated by hand, and it's really living history.
There are 47 locks at 24 lock stations, and just 3 that were electrified, including Lock 36 at Newborough, which got the update in 1966. But then, the decision was made to preserve the historical aspect of the canal, so further mechanization stopped. And in 2007, the entire system became a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Newborough is a popular spot for overnighting, as you have washrooms, barbecue grills, power, and water, but it's also busy. And it marks the exit from the Rideau River system that flows towards Ottawa, and your entry into the Cataraqui system, which flows towards Kingston. With my family joining me on this journey, we turn to starboard to continue southwest through smaller lakes. It's also a good time for breakfast. Here you'll wind your way through islands and a couple of narrow cuts, though all are well marked. Elbow Channel cuts you south just below Goat Island, out of Newborough Lake and into Clear Lake. Then, just a half nautical mile south of that, you're at a shorter but even more unique channel because it has a single car ferry giving access to Scott Island. It's connected by an underwater chain, so don't cut too close behind if the ferry is still crossing. Once through, you're in yet another body of water, Indian Lake. And for us, it was as picture-perfectly serene as a day you'll find anywhere on the water. Cruising under the former rail line, now the Cataraqui Trail, you enter one of the few man-made sections of the waterway. Only 19 of the 202 kilometers were man-made dugout canals. The rest utilized existing rivers and lakes. This canal is very populated, compared to many other areas, and it has some vital services here too. And back in here is the site of Lock Station 37, Chaffee's Lock. Along with the lock itself, a dam was built, raising the levels of Indian and Newborough lakes. Before going through, we're going to tie up and check out a must-visit destination here.
Oh yeah, yes guy.
A short walk from the lock, across the street actually, is the entrance to the historic Opinnacan Resort that boaters are welcome to check out. A very kind lady showed us where the ice cream shop was and then told us Wilson would love it if we continued further onto the grounds. Obviously, she's a mother and knows what makes a kid's vacation amazing. The playground is open to the public, and as it turns out, that lovely woman we met is actually the lovely owner of the Opinacon, and she's done a ton of improvements. We'll show more about her labor of love and how boaters can take advantage of them later in the show.
What if you could cruise along without having to continuously adjust your course from the main helm? Well, you can with a wireless controller and remote steering system from IntelliSteer. IntelliSteer offers a range of remote steering products for boats with cable steering or hydraulic steering. They are fairly easy to install and could be a do-it-yourself project for those mechanically inclined. This Type H kit came with everything you typically need for a hydraulic installation, including the Octopus pump and 3/8 hoses. Our older President has larger half-inch lines, so we had to source a few adapters to complete the job. If you have an existing autopilot, there is no need for additional drive units. The wireless controller is designed to work with a course computer and autopilot drive. There is even a version for cable-steered outboards with kickers that allow you to control both at the same time. The wireless pendant is waterproof, so you can take it pretty much anywhere on the boat. The controller and receiver both meet FCC standards for wireless communication, with over 1 million control codes for enhanced security. It even has a convenient auto-off function if you haven't used it in 30 minutes to save batteries. This is the all-new 2019 FX Cruiser SVHO. This is the all-new 2019 FX Cruiser SVHO. Completely redesigned from the hull up to provide more stability and maneuverability. And today, we're going to take her for a ride and see how she handles. The added stability is quite noticeable, especially at lower speeds, and is due in part to a hull that is now 1.5 inches wider. This is ideal for towing and cruising with passengers. Normally, a wider hull might feel more sluggish, but Yamaha's Nano XL 2 hull material is so light, the FX responds quickly, with reflexes not far off a GP 1800. On the GP, you've got to be paying attention very lively. This is forgiving and yet still really maneuverable. It's hard to believe a cruiser can turn this well. It also has the spray shields built into the nose of the hull, and they're very effective at keeping you high and dry on this boat. Not only was the hull improved for 2019, but Yamaha also added a number of new features and updates to their latest FX cruisers. It's got a new deck with much sleeker lines than before. It's got a brand new Connect 4.5-inch touchscreen display, the first of its kind in the watercraft industry. This colored touchscreen is highly customizable and provides access to more system information and control than ever before. Various screens allow access to everything from the cruise assist throttle modes to new Connect security codes. Next generation L mode settings provide 6 combinations of speed and acceleration control that can be locked in right from the screen. No more key fobs to worry about. I really like that I can finally monitor speed, RPM, fuel, trim, and even battery voltage all from the same screen at the same time. And unlike my smartphone, the Connect's high contrast screen is bright enough to read even in direct sunlight. And probably one of the coolest features for 2019 are footwell drains. My feet are bone dry right now, and even if you make a maneuver and swamp the footwell, it quickly evacuates the water and you've got dry feet. Yamaha's Cruise Assist feature is just so awesome. In 2018, you couldn't move the throttle at all or it would disengage. Now, push button control in 5-mile-an-hour increments, and that supercharged engine is still just so awesome. Yamaha uses the largest displacement engine in the business at 1,800 cc's, and then when you add a supercharger to it, woo! Crack open a few hatches and you'll find larger storage compartments, including a much bigger watertight glove box with an easy reach. Under the seat is a removable waterproof bucket. Total capacity is now over 166 liters. And And with the upgrades for 2019 comes a number of new features, including an all-new TDE system, which allows you to control slow-speed maneuverability like never before.
TDE stands for Thrust Directional Enhancer.
And you use the trim button when you're in neutral to allow the vehicle to push slightly forward or slightly in reverse. And what it's doing is operating the clamshell just in small increments. And I don't have to be anywhere near the throttles to operate the system, which makes docking so much easier.
With all of this new technology and performance, the 2019 FX Cruiser SVHO could be the ultimate pocket rocket for on-water adventures.
In all honesty, it's comparable to any big bass boat or tournament series boat on the market.
This week's DIY project is all about the temperature of your engines. And how do you know if you have a problem? How do you diagnose it? Well, on my particular boat here, the port side, it says at the dash is running hotter than the starboard side. But is it? Can't necessarily trust your gauges. You want to use them, but you want to investigate too. So first step, using a tool that I think everyone should have on their boat, one of these temperature guns. You want to check everywhere, especially your heat exchanger, either side of where your thermostat is, your exhaust elbows. Now, these haven't been running a couple days because I wanted them to be nice and cold when I'm working on them. But when they were running, there was no difference between my two engines, which means there's either a problem with the sending unit wire, or the gauge. I don't know which one it is. We're gonna find out. Before you do anything on your engines or involving electronics, listen up with me, camera 3. Okay, turn off your batteries. With the modern engine, there's so many electronics, you don't want to short them out or damage them as well. We're gonna have to turn them on to test something. Stay tuned. So step 1, we're gonna remove the plenum, this whole top piece here. But first, we'll have to disconnect the map wire, the manifold absolute pressure. Now step 2, we gotta loosen all these screws. It's probably, yes, T40 territory. So let's do this. Attached to the plenum, we got the throttle linkage here. Now you could remove it, but it's also very tricky sometimes to get these bolts back on underneath. So we're gonna see if we can just move it enough out of the way. Bingo, bango.
The sending unit works on electrical resistance. So once you remove the plug from the sensor, use a set of alligator clips to ground it out, then turn on the ignition. It should make the temp gauge read full hot, providing the wire and gauge are working correctly, which is the case here, so it's gotta be the temp sender itself. This will differ from engine to engine, but with our closed-loop cooling 7.4-liter Mercruiser, we need to drain the coolant before we can remove the sensor. Because after all, it's this liquid where the sensor gets its reading from.
Always, always, always use OEM parts when possible. Here is the new one and the old one. You screw this puppy in there, hook up the wire, send in the clowns.
And with the new sensor installed, we can start putting the plenum back on. And while you're doing that, you should follow a crisscross pattern, similar to tire nuts, to ensure it's seated evenly all the way around. Torque the bolts to the proper engine specs, reconnect the map wire, and of course, don't forget to put the coolant back in before you fire the engine, or that could create a whole other mess of problems.
We've been idling at the dock for nearly 20 minutes, and as you can see, it is holding steady at 160. Now, before we change that temperature sensor, in about 5 minutes, we'd be kissing 200. So as we suspected, it does appear that the engine is working just fine, and it was the problem with that sender unit.
Well, we're out here on Lac William, and our friend Sean Banks has joined us again for a little fishing action. Sean, it was 29 degrees earlier today.
Yeah.
What happened? You brought some cold air and some smoke on the water.
I don't know what to tell you. I tell you, I came over that mountain back there, and I think it's, what, 12 degrees now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Had some lunch, got suited up, and we're back out here. Hopefully find ourselves a walleye, pike, or bass.
Yeah.
Something along those lines anyways.
Yeah.
Get to try out this nice new boat.
Yeah, this is the new Princecraft Hudson 170 DLX.
Yeah.
They haven't had a 17-footer.
No.
They've had a 19 that's been really popular and had the 16. But you know, the 19's a bit big to fit in your garage.
Anywhere from an entry-level angler to a guy who wants to go fish way up north or down the Great Lakes, to have a 19, 20-foot boat, sometimes behind an SUV, it's hard on that vehicle. You put a 17-foot behind it, and you can take it anywhere.
Well, before we go fishing, you want to take her for a little spin, see how she drives?
Yeah, let's see what she does.
All right, here you go, man.
Thanks, buddy.
No worries. Oh. Safety first!
Safety first!
Engine options start at 90 horsepower, but our test boat had the awesome 150 Pro XS, which will put the 170 on plane in about 3 seconds flat. Top speed is well over 50 miles per hour, where the little Hudson remains stable and predictable. Thankfully, the big windshield kept the freezing wind away when the Pro XS was howling. The helm is nice and clean, with a big analog tack and speedo over the wheel. Waterproof switches are nicely recessed so you won't accidentally toggle any while operating the GPS fish finder.
And of course, they've got the extended platform back here. So you really do, once this is down, you have a pretty big casting area.
In all honesty, it's comparable to any big bass boat or bigger tournament series boat on the market. It's a giant platform for a 17-foot boat.
Yeah.
To have the ability to be able to put it right back into a family mode, it's the best of both worlds. There's room for everybody on a smaller platform. Ready to get some rods out, John?
Oh, yeah.
There are 2 large storage compartments in the forward deck to either side of the pedestal seat. A storage net around the perimeter helps keep loose gear off the platform.
Hey, one of the things I kind of like is this little bicycle seat. It's telescopic, right? So you can put it up and down. And like you were saying earlier, depending on what height you want, it's kind of cool just to be able to lean against it, put your foot up, and it makes it a little more relaxing. And I'll tell you what, on this cold day, it's a bit warmer.
Yeah. Any body part you can hide, eh?
Yeah.
The other nice thing about this boat is the use of space. Everywhere there's storage in this boat. Like for a 17-foot boat, you have storage underneath the driver's console, the passenger console, the glove box quite big. They have a small glove box as well underneath the driver for, you know, maybe a couple tackle trays. In the back, they even put a spot in for your bait bucket for your minnows, which is fantastic. Live well's a nice size. That'll hold 6 nice bass in there.
Yeah.
Or 6 nice walleye for dinner. Downrigger mounts, color-coded to match the hull of the boat.
Yeah.
Side gunnels. We just have tackle box in there right now, but nice area to put 6 or 7 tackle trays.
And to port, I see there's a bit longer.
Yeah, a bit bigger one over this side. And once again, anchor storage, light storage, your fire extinguisher, safety kit. This spot's not producing, buddy. You ready to switch spots?
Yeah, let's go somewhere else.
All right, one nice thing they put on this boat, so you don't have to put everything down in your locker storage, is nice little rod storage here.
Oh,
so
yeah.
if you want to pass your rod down, we'll lock them up and get going. You mentioned earlier today about the stability of this boat and the beam and the platform being similar to the 19-foot version. And I have to tell you, both you and I are standing on the one side, and this boat's barely listing.
Yeah.
It's pretty incredible, really. This boat comes with full bow cushions. You have the family out here. Is that a fish?
Yeah.
It
sure is.
hooked up. Nice smallmouth.
Oh, I got some new favorite bait. Look at that. Oh.
Swing them right around here. Oh, look at that. Beauty, buddy. That
Nice.
swim bait. Nice job, man.
She's a beaut.
Yeah. Yeah, you bring the fish, John, I'll bring the salad.
Not only will the Hudson 170 get you out fishing in style, but we have proof it can help anyone catch a fish. And those are the memories that will last a lifetime.
Chaffee's Lock is one of many that has a swing bridge, and like the locks, these are all done by hand as well. About 50 kilometers north of Kingston is Chaffee's Lock, and here you'll find the historic Opinnicon Resort. Built in the 1870s as a private residence, in 1921 it became the Opinnicon Club and began welcoming visitors, many of whom were drawn to the great fishing. For the next 90 years, it was run by the same family. But over the years, things fell into disrepair, and in 2012, the resort closed. And that's where Fiona McKean comes in, buying it at auction with her husband.
So my connection with the place, I had a cottage close by. As a kid, I'd come up and blow all of my allowance on ice cream. So that was the draw here. And as I got older, we'd come for dinner if you were allowed in. So the previous owners, the dining room wasn't a restaurant. It's more like Dirty Dancing, where house guests would eat communally. I always call this place kind of like Group of 7 meets Dirty Dancing. It's very Canadiana.
It was a living time capsule, and that's something she didn't want to lose just by rebuilding new structures. Instead, it's all been redone from the cottages to the main building.
It was shabby chic kind of falling around you, but it was comforting and warm and hospitable. And that's what I've tried to save the most. It is comfortable, it is warm and inviting, and there's a ton of hospitality. As much as I've had to change the interiors just structurally because it was falling over, it should feel familiar when you come in. If not in looks, at least in feeling.
This is roughly halfway between Smiths Falls and Kingston, and for us, where we'll turn around and head back. But first, the only maintenance you need to worry about while traveling is making sure the strainers are clear. There can be some weedy sections, and that gets sucked up by the intake, but it's simple and easy to clear it out. Chaffee's Lock is one of many that has a swing bridge. Every boat can get under it, but to demonstrate how it works, they put it in action for us. And like the locks, these are all done by hand as well. Cleverly designed to require almost no manpower. The magic of physics then propels you up about 3 meters or 10 feet and back into the man-made channel. Underway, you're at your own pace on a trip like this, which is nice. But you do need to keep an eye on the clock for the last lockages, as you need to arrive about 30 minutes before so you can get through it. After a super hot start to our journey a few days ago, cold front is pushed in and it's downright unbearable up top. Luckily, there's that second helm station down below. Good to know you have it on cold days like today. The beauty of a waterway like this is that it's not a boring highway. You have detours and options. And when back on Lower Rideau Lake, we veer north. Here there are 2 locks, Upper and Lower Beverages, that grant you access to the Tay Canal that runs all the way to the town of Perth. Or, like us, you can work your way up to the top of the second lock and tie up here. Thanks to the boat having kayaks, as well as bikes and stand-up paddleboards you can add onto your boat, I decided this was a great time and location to introduce my son to paddling. You'll note the cold weather has not let up, but we are no fair weather adventurers. Cold weather be damned, we're doing this. As a major storm was due to hit overnight, we decided it was best to race back towards Smiths Falls. Still overcast, but warming up, we're back out on the Lower Rideau Lake and working our way back through the final 2 locks to get back to base. All in, we did just under 65 nautical miles, around 115 kilometers, and experienced the biggest lake on the system, some of the narrowest channels, rivers, and man-made canals. Not bad for just a few days.